On the day of his inauguration, President Trump signed an executive order paving the way for mass deportations across the U.S.
Since the Trump administration took office, there's just been, I'm sure as you know, a lot of changes.
In the months to follow, immigration advocates say they've worried about fear and anxiety in the immigrant community, including those working to stay in the country legally. I'm Talisa Treviño with a special episode of our KXAN Investigates podcast, taking a closer look at how this issue is playing out for some living in Texas.
I'm not going to give up. I really feel like that. But if they should deport her, I will go with her because I'm not going to let her do this on her own.
That was Tina, an Austin mom fearing for her daughter's immigration status. We are not sharing her name or her daughter's because they're concerned their case could be impacted for speaking out. In 2006, Tina says she moved in with her now ex-husband in Canada, and they soon welcomed their daughter. After a few years, Tina said she realized she needed to leave the marriage. But she says because her husband wouldn't let her take her daughter with her back to the U.S., Tina stayed.
So I stayed until she graduated. And then when she graduated, then I said, well, I'm leaving now. I said to her, do you want to come with me or do you want to stay here with your dad? And she wanted to come. So that's why she's with me.
In August 2023, the two packed up their car and left Canada, making the journey into the United States. They stopped in Michigan to stay with family before heading to Texas.
We rented a 20-foot truck and we pulled the car, and I'd never driven a truck in my life. For 4 days on the road, and I was really kind of freaking out a little bit there, and I think I kind of went into a down spiral kind of a little bit, but I said, we got to get there. Our destination is Texas. We got to get there. So that's what we did.
Tina says what seemed to be an easy move was actually the opposite, because her ex refused to sign necessary documents.
But the thing that really messed things up was that when she was born up there, we needed to sign what was called a report of birth abroad.
The form is supposed to be signed before a child turns 18. But since Tina's daughter was already 18, they had to go down a different route to try to get her citizenship. Before coming to the U.S., Tina started the process that allows relatives to request citizenship approval for their non-citizen loved one. Since submitting their application almost 2 years ago, Tina and her daughter have been navigating the process without a lawyer, and she says it hasn't been easy.
We could have hired a lawyer, I think, but I have no money to do that. It's just me, and her father's not helping us with anything. It's like I'm working a retail job. Any money we're making is keeping us in our apartment and fed. That's it. And it's pricey. I've done $2,000 into this since we started, and I'm feeling like it's going to be another couple thousand just to get to where we want to be.
Tina says last July, they heard their application was cleared to begin the process, and things were moving along.
Worry about the rules changing, that maybe Trump's gonna sweep in and start cleaning house, and she's gonna become one of them, you know.
Tina isn't the only one with these concerns.
There's certainly a demand for timely information about all of the policy changes we've seen come down.
That was Robert Painter, a managing attorney with the Texas Immigration Law Council, a resource group that helps with outreach for people working with immigration legal services. Because there have been so many policy changes lately, I asked Robert to break down the path to citizenship.
So citizenship is kind of like the ultimate goal for many immigrants coming to this country, and it's sort of like the focal point at the end. Like if you think of it, the immigration system is like a funnel. It kind of leads you to citizenship as the end.
Robert says the process starts with getting a permanent residency card, commonly known as a green card. Once a person holds permanent residency status without any issues for 5 years, like criminal charges, then they are eligible to apply for naturalization, which is full U.S. citizenship. That step includes completing an English proficiency test, a U.S. history and government test, and taking the oath of allegiance before a government official. While every immigrant must get a legal permanent residency card before they're eligible to apply for citizenship, the process for getting a green card is different for everyone. Robert described to me that there are 3 main routes to go down, depending on the case.
For people who are coming to the U.S. to work, And sometimes work visas in certain instances can lead to permanent residency and then citizenship. Somebody in the U.S. who is a permanent resident or U.S. citizen is able to file a petition to bring another family member over. And then there's the humanitarian route, which is people who enter the country and request asylum here, or maybe were processed as a refugee and entered as in that status from abroad.
Immigrants who seek asylum and refugee status must show they are coming to the U.S. fearing persecution in their home country.
It gets more complicated as you get into individual cases, but that's sort of the conceptual framework for our immigration system.
After completing the 5 years of permanent residency status, applying for naturalization seems like it would be a one-and-done process. But after speaking with Rebecca Lightsey, the co-executive director at American Gateways, she explained it isn't really so simple, mainly due to the immigration court backlog.
Theoretically, once you apply for asylum, you should get your asylum interview within 6 months to a year. We're seeing people wait years for their asylum interview. In fact, we have someone that we're helping this week who started her process 12 years ago, and her court hearing is this week.
A huge part of Rebecca's work at American Gateways involves providing legal counsel and advocacy for low-income immigrants and asylum seekers across Central Texas. Rebecca says they have had a massive uptick in the number of people reaching out to them.
So what we are seeing is such fear and anxiety in the immigrant community, and we can't tell them they're wrong, that they shouldn't be scared.
Rebecca says the best thing to do is for people to know their rights and plan ahead in case a family member is detained.
Someone might want to give someone else the power of attorney over their financial affairs. They may want to do a care and custody agreement so that if something happens to them and they have children, that their children are taken care of, to really plan ahead. It's not unlike what we should all do.
For Tina, all she can do now is wait until she can get her daughter's citizenship processed.
We are where we wanted to be. If we made it here, then we can keep going. We can still keep pursuing and keep going, and we're not ready to give up yet.
To hear more about Tina's story, navigating the immigration process, and to find a list of immigration-related resources, look for this story at kxan.com/undocumented. Talisa Treviño, KXAN Investigates.